Hey everybody, this is an example for Sequence and Series 2.3, and the video is going to comprise of 2 or 4 parts. We've got part number 1, and I'll try to break it down so you can skip between the 2 or the 4 a lot easier. Part number 1, we're going to review the assessment. Number 2 will be all of the achieve stuff, 3 will be merit, and then 4 will be the excellence stuff. So if you're not interested in what the assessment is, you just want to look at excellence or merit, skip on ahead. So part number 1. So we're looking at Bob, who is training for a full marathon, and it is 19 weeks away. So that 19 weeks is pretty important because our pattern normally goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, and it kind of carries on. In this case, it would stop at 19, so we don't need to go beyond 19. He's been running for a while, but he can only run about 10 kilometers per week at the moment, so that tells us about the A value, the initial value. He knows that he'll gradually have to increase his running distance. The training program must be tapered at the end, and you'll see these percentages to do with the tapering here and down here. I'll chat with you about what that means in the merit section later on. But he's got 2 possible plans. So plan number 1, we've got start with 10 kilometers, and it increases by 2 kilometers per week. Because it's 2 every week, that's a bit of a clue. Maybe that's going to be an aromatic sequence. Plan 2, same thing, starting at 10, but it's increasing by 11%. And I like saying percentages, because percentages normally relate to multiplication, and that's the point of geometric sequences. So it looks like I got aromatic over here, geometric over here. Task number 1, we've been asked to compare the training program. So that's going to be a bit wordy. Comment on the advantages and challenges of each program, so some more words, and support each statement with details such as the running distance of week 1, 10, and 16, the total distance of the training program, and finally when it exceeds 30 kilometers for the first time. And the last bit of information for achieved, athletes who increase the volume or the volume of running too quick, they have a higher risk of injury, blah, 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 blah. They should not jump by more than 3 kilometers from one week to the next. So that 3 kilometer number might be useful later on. And finally, task 2. This is the excellent stuff. We'll chat about that in part 4. And you'll always get a formula sheet. R1 will look like this. Everyone's may be slightly different though. So that quickly wraps up the review. So we're going to jump straight into looking at the achieve part. And the achieve part's going to be nice and easy. It's going to be coming up with the term and sum formula for plan number 1, and we'll give a quick example for each, and then we're going to do the same for plan 2. And if you can do that, you're probably going to get your achieve marks for this particular internal. So let's rip into it. So let's maybe do a heading. Plan A over there, and we know for plan A, if we think of the weeks, week 1 was 10 kilometers, week 2 was adding 2 extra 12 kilometers, week 3 was 14 kilometers, and we carried on this increasing by 2 pattern until week 16. Noting we don't do that for week 17, 18, 19, because if we scroll up, that was when the tapering was happen. I'm not going to chat about that in the achieve section, but you can see week 17, something else happens. So week 16 is when this pattern stops. So I've kind of got a summary of my information from this. I can figure out, if you have a look here, my aromatic formulas, I need the A value, which is the initial value, and I need D, which is the difference. So I know that A will be equal to 10 kilometers. That's week number 1. I've got that information right there. It's increasing by 2 every time. So my D value will be 2. I'll actually get rid of those units to make it easier. And this here, an aromatic sequence. Thank goodness for autocorrect. Okay, so my formula, Tn, will be equal to, I'm going to write down the generic formula, A plus D n minus 1. I'm now going to substitute my A and D values for the ones I've determined them to be. So Tn equals 10 plus 2 n minus 1. So done that, and once we've done every example, you kind of get your marks by using the formula. So we haven't really used it here, so we're going to make up an example here. So for example, if Bob runs during week 10, he will run the following distance. And what this means, we're going to calculate n equals 10. We're going to put that in, and we're going to see what the formula would result. So let's copy the formula. So we know that n is 10, so let's put the 10 there. So T10 will be equal to the formula that we've been given. We're now going to substitute, gosh, I need to scroll down a little bit. We're now going to substitute this over here. So n goes away, 10 goes in. We can simplify a bit more. 10 minus 1 over here is 9. And we can actually simplify that line a bit more, copy and paste it. So that becomes 18, 2 times 9. And finally, we can go straight to the answer. So T10, 28 kilometers. So that means Bob would run 28 kilometers in week 10 of his training program. So that was the term formula. So let's actually put a bit of a heading there. And let's do the same for the sum formula. So I'm going to start by writing my generic formula for this one. So Sn will be equal to 0.5 n to a plus d square bracket n minus 1. So this was given to us on the formula sheet. Close bracket. We're going to substitute the values we know, and we got at the very top, we know a and we know d. So the a can go away and the d can go away. So let's copy that. You'll see I'll do a lot of copying and pasting as I type up my response. Just makes my life a bit easier. So that's going to be 2 times 10. And that d going away becomes a 2. And I can actually simplify this a bit more. That 2 times 10, I can just change that, make that 20. So that's the sum formula. And we're going to do the same thing like we did before. So we did Bob running in week 10. But for the sum formula, let's say after that week 10, how much has he run in total from week 1, 2, 3, all the way up to week 10? So for example, during week 10, or sorry, maybe following week 10, Bob would have run the following total from his training program. And again, so we know, because that I'm chatting about week 10, we know n equals 10. So let's get my formula here. So Control C, Control V again, and I'm going to take away the n here. So the sum of 10 will be equal to 0.5 times n, so that's going to be times 10 now, and the n there, so that's n minus 1, that's going to become 10 minus 1. And I'm going to put a little extra time sign in there just to make my life a bit easier. So I can start simplifying a bit here actually. So 10 minus 1, I know that's going to be 9, so that's a bit simpler. Control C again. 2 times 9, that's going to be 18. So another simplification there. I can simplify that bracket. 10 plus 18, that's going to take me to 38. And then it was looking a lot better here. 0.5 times 10 out the front, that's just going to be 5. And final one, that 5 times 38. Don't do it in your calculator, I'm doing it in my head, but 190 is what that comes to. So that means from week 1 to 10, using plan number 1, Bob has run 10 kilometers. So that was plan number 1. If you're able to run through what we've done here, this is actually enough to pass kind of by itself, because you showed me a couple skills here. You have been able to identify where the pattern started and the difference. So that's one achieved mark. Following that, you were able to identify the term formula and you're able to use it to calculate an answer. That's the second achieved mark. That's actually enough to pass there. And then the last one is you found the sum formula and you're able to use that to calculate. So that would have been a third mark. There is a fourth achieved mark in relation to this bottom one here, finding the week where it reaches 30 kilometers. We're going to chat about that largely in the merit section though. So what we're going to do is, in the real internal, it's only taken us 9 minutes to get to this point. Don't take it for granted. You might have done a silly little math error, so we're going to replicate what we did here for Plan B, which is the geometric sequence. And this is an opportunity to show a few more skills in case we've had a bit of a nightmare in that first section. So just a reminder, Plan 2 is increasing by 11 kilometers each week. So yeah, let's get into it. Plan 2. Oh gosh, forget my typo. I'm on a slightly different computer, which I normally am. So week 1, 10 kilometers again. Week 2, it increases by 11%. Week 3, we've got another 11% increase. And you can kind of see increases by 11% every week until week 11, or week 16 again, because the tapering starts at week 17. So I always like to do this because it just gets me into the pattern, gets me thinking about the key terms, key parts of the formula. So we know again A is equal to 10, so that's an important part. Regardless of which sequence it is, arithmetic or geometric, we're going to need that. Here, because it's geometric, we're going to do the ratio, and that's going to be 1 plus 11, which is the percentage over 100. And if you put that in your calculator or just do it in your head, you're going to get 1.11. That's the ratio. So that makes it a geometric sequence. So we're going to do the term formula first. Oh gosh, sorry. Term formula. So we've got Control B here. Let's get rid of that. We're going to start off by writing the generic formula. So Tn is equal to A times R to the power of n minus 1. Just a reminder, I'm using kind of computer speak. That little asterisk there, that means times. That little triangle hat thing does mean power. I'm now going to substitute in my R and my A from what I've calculated earlier. So let's copy in that. So our A value is 10 and our R value is 1.11. So we've got the formula, but just a reminder, getting the formula by itself isn't enough. You've got to use it to actually calculate something. So like we did before, using Bob running 10 weeks as an example, we're going to do the exact same. So I've copied that paragraph or that little sentence, and I've done the same. There you go. So I'm going to use n equals 10. I'm now going to copy the new formula, the geometric one, and I'm just going to substitute, see what it all comes to. So there's the formula. So let's take out the n, put in 10, because that's what we're looking at. There's a 10 gone, and there's another 10. So we can now start simplifying this a bit. This one will be a bit more annoying to calculate. So 10 minus 1 is going to be 9. And that's actually all we can do here. So at this stage here, I'll check if I can put into my Google Sheet, Control V. There you go. It's actually able to calculate that for me, which is nice. So I don't need to mess around with my calculator. So T10 is equal to 25.6 kilometers. And that was a 1 dp rounding. So that means after the 10th week, he ran 25.6 kilometers. If we compare that to the other formula, the arithmetic one, 28 kilograms. So he's kind of run a little bit less at that time. So we're now going to look at the sum formula. Control B, sum formula. And I'm going to write down the generic one, and this one's a bit tricky. So Sn is equal to A bracket R to the power of n, and then minus 1. Just a reminder, in this case, the minus 1 is not with the n. I'll get rid of that little battery warning. And then following that, that's going to be divided by R minus 1. So let's copy that formula. Let's do our substitution, because we actually know the R's. I'll get rid of that uppercase R, put it in a lowercase one. Yeah, we know the R, we know the A. And we can make up an n value to figure out as well. So our A value was 10. Our R value we said was 1.11. And we've got another R down the bottom, so 1.11. The bottom can actually be simplified. We can't do much with the top. It looks a bit messy, but we can't do too much. But if we copy this, we can simplify that bottom, and that's going to become 0.11. So there's my sum formula. Just a reminder, it's not enough to generate the formula. You do need to use the formula and actually get some kind of response from it. So we're going to do the same thing with before. We're going to pretend that Bob has run 10 weeks, and we're going to find out how many, or what was the total distance that he ran in that 10-week window. So there we go, n equals 10. So let's copy that formula. Okay, so there's the formula. We're now going to say n equals 10. So the sum for up to 10 weeks. and we'll take out that in there and put another 10. This one here is going to be a bit annoying, so what I would do is I would calculate the top first. This time around, I'm going to do it on my Google Sheet, so I'm going to go equals 10 times, and it's going to be 1.11 to the power of 10 minus 1 close bracket. So that comes to 18. So let's copy that. That comes to 18.39 with some change. We're going to round it. So 18.39 dot 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 dot. So I'm just rounding it for my typing. I'm going to use the exact answer here for the rest of it. So my next part, I'm going to go equals the number that I have. I'm going to go divided by 0.11 to do the last part of it. And we can see 167.2 is the answer. So S10 is equal to 167.2 kilometers 1 DP. So that means once he's completed the 10th week of his training program, he would have ran a total of 167.2 kilometers. Let's see, just for curiosity, how that compares. The previous program, he would have ran 190 kilometers at that particular point. So that wraps up the achieved section. There's going to be one achieved element that we're going to chat about for merit, but let's go back to the merit stuff. So the merit stuff will really be answering and writing these comments that they've talked about here. So we're going to be using our Google Sheet on the right-hand side a bit more to do that. So let's get rid of all of the Google Sheet stuff. I'm hoping that big font doesn't annoy me later on, but there we go. So the Google Sheet, we're going to start off with plan number 1. So let's put a little bit of a heading there. So week number, because that's what we look at. And then we got plan 1, and that's the weekly distance. And then we also need plan 1. We're going to do the sum. And then finally, this is going to be a bit annoying, but remember how it talked about a jump of 3 kilometers or more in a given week will increase the risk of injuries. So we do want to consider that, the difference part of it. So what I'm probably going to do is actually I'm going to go right click, insert column left, and I'm going to do the difference here. And that's going to look and compare at my distance numbers to see how much it's going up by every time. So this is plan 1. I'll then replicate it for plan 2 later on, but let's have a look. So just a reminder, we're going up to 19 weeks. So I start off by doing 1, 2, 3, and I will highlight those 3 cells, and you'll see the little blue circle there. You'll see the little plus sign come up. That lets me drop and drag however long I want. So I've dragged it for 19. So I started at 2, so 19 will get me to 20, and that's got all my 20 there. The weekly distance, well, week number 1 is going to be 10, and we know the next week is going to be 12 because it's increasing by 2, and then 13. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to drag, it's going to spot my pattern, and then I'm just going to drag that pattern with a plus sign, drag it all the way down. There we go, and we can check week 10. We figured it to be 28 kilometers. We can check our calculation before. There you go, I got 28, so I know I'm all good for that one there. The difference, so we can't really do a difference for the first one because there's nothing to compare it with, so dash. But the difference here is going to be the week that just passed minus the earlier week. So 2, which makes sense because we know it's increasing by 2 every time. And again, if I click and drop this pattern, it'll spot it for me. So if you have a look, it's now dropped the cells by 1, and it's dropped it by 1 again, and so on. So it's got that pattern for us. I'll actually bold these to make it a bit nicer. And the last one we're looking at is the sum. And the sum's a bit annoying to do on Google Sheets, but it's one of those things, once you got it, it's all good. So the first week, the sum is easy. So we just go equals the first one. And I'm going to ignore all these suggestions because these suggestions most of the time aren't right. The sum for week 2 is going to be the previous week's sum plus the new amount, in this case, which is 12. So it's going to be 10 plus the new amount. And the next cell is going to be the previous amount, which is 22, plus the new amount of 14. It actually auto-predicted it for me then as well. And this case here, you can see I can actually drop and drag that and it will get that sum. So in total, this program, I'm going to be running 532 kilometers over 19 weeks. That seems like a lot. So that's our first one there. Going back up to the question, I just want to highlight information that's relevant to the question. So the question asked us about week 1, week 10, week 16. So I'm just going to highlight that information in a certain color, so I'll be able to compare them later. So week 1, let's highlight all these bits in yellow. So week 1, week 10, and that's the one we calculated earlier, and week 16, so that's 40 kilometers. And I guess then, actually I realized these ones at the bottom are actually going to be wrong because we haven't considered the tapering element of it yet. So let's get into that actually. So week 17, 18, 19, we do a percentage of the maximum weekly distance, which is this 40 number here. So let's get rid of these because they're all wrong. So this one here, we said it's going to be 80% of the highest amount. So that's going to be 40 times 0.8. So you'll see that's 32. I've actually dropped by 8 there. Week 18, you'll see that's 60%. So that's going to be equals 40 times the 0.6. And the last week is 50%. So that's going to be equals 40 times 0.5. There we go. So you can see that amount, the total distance actually dropped quite substantially then. So we're now down to 476 kilometers for the total trip. So got the tapering right now. It also asked us for the total distance over the whole program. So that's going to be that cell down there. Let's highlight that maybe in green. And I'll highlight the next plan in green as well so we can compare the numbers easier. And then it says which week it first exceeds 30 kilometers. And that looks like it's going to be this one up here. I'll highlight that in blue. I've highlighted the week color there because it's actually the week that we need to communicate in our answer. So that's plan number 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy our headings and Control V. We're going to start the same for plan number 2. And I'm just going to keep scrolling across. I'm going to change these headings though. So we've got plan number 2. There we go. That's for the weekly amount. And then there's the sum amount. And I'll just make these a bit nicer so they look all good. First step, let's copy and paste the 1 to 19. So we've got those amounts, and then we don't actually need any of the other information. We can start moving on over. So we're going to start off with week number 1. We know it's 10. And the next week is the previous week times by our ratio, 1.11. There you go. And then this week will be the same. It will be equals the previous week times 1.11. And if you highlight these cells, it will pick up on what you're doing, and you'll see it's calculated that all for you. Just a reminder, I've extended beyond 17, so I actually need to get rid of these because of the tapering element that we're going to have. So our tapering will be the highest amount, which is this cell here, times by 0.8. And just to confirm where that came from the 80% over here. We're going to have 60% and 50% below. So equals the highest amount times 0.6, and then equals highest amount times 0.5. So I've got my amounts. I can calculate the difference. Again, just a reminder, the difference, there's nothing to compare for week 1, so we're just going to put a little bit of a dash. And the first difference will be the week 2 amount minus the week 1 amount. So that's increased by 1.1. And I'm just going to drop and drag this, and this will replicate the formula. For example, if you click here, you can see it's the amount for the week minus the previous one, and it does that for every cell. And you can see these ones here are negative because we are tapering. We're actually dropping down our running. The final one is the sum, and we're going to replicate what we did in the previous one. So the first one will just be equal to 10. The second one will be the previous week plus the additional week that just happened. And then again, we can drop and drag this and it'll pick it all up, and I'll show you. So this week here, for example, so it's got the previous week and it's got plus the new week. And over here, it's got the same previous week plus the new week. So I've got all the information there, so that's really good. So let's uncolor this one because that carried over from the previous question. And let's highlight what we did last time. So we highlighted in yellow week 1, week 10, week 16. So we're going to need to do the same here as well. So week 1, let's highlight that in yellow. Week 10 over here, that's going to be yellow too. And week 16, that's going to be yellow. Our sum, we highlighted in green. So there's our green number. So 482 kilometers versus 476 kilometers. So slightly more than the other one. And you remember in blue, we highlighted when it hit 30 kilometers. And in our case, it's actually this week here. That looked like it was 1 week slower. It was week 11, I think, in the first one, and now it's week 12. So it's quite slightly slower to get to those weeks. So we've highlighted all the information we need, and we can now start this, the actual merit part of it, this comparison, these comments, and that. But before we do that, there's only one other thing I want to check, is this 3 kilometer part. Were there any differences above 3 kilometers? We know for the aromatic one, it's a 2 kilometer thing every time, so none of those are above 2, or above 3 actually. But if we had a look at plan 2, we can see these weeks here, we actually had quite a few weeks above 3. So I'm going to highlight that in a different color. Maybe we'll highlight that in that pink there. Because that's a problem. In those weeks, Bob's got a higher risk of injury, and that's not what you want leading up to a marathon. So I'm now going to start my conversation regarding this comparison, and I just want to know, I'm actually going to leave this pink stuff to last because that actually comes in the excellence type criteria. So we're going to start off with the achieved part, which will be in red, and that'll be this bottom one, which reaches 30 kilometers first. So maybe down here, we'll write, let's change color. So blue will largely be the merit stuff. So compare. So this will be comments and comparison. Plan A and Plan B. I'm then going to change my font back to red because the first comment's actually going to be an achieved one. And maybe I might just bullet point my answers because I'm not the best explainer. So let's have a look. So I'm just going to be quite factual. So Plan A reaches 30 kilometers in week 11. And then we're going to go over what does Plan B do. Plan B reaches 30 kilometers in week 12, and it actually reaches 31.5 kilograms, and that was 1 dp rounding. This means Plan A reaches 30 kilometers 1 week before Plan B. Full stop. So that last one there, so I've got my 2 statements, one statement about Plan A, one statement about Plan B, and then this last one was the comparative comment, 1 week difference that we need. So that was the last, that was the 4th achieved skill you could have got. So we're going to do that. We're going to change our color to blue. I think I picked the darker one. I can't quite remember, but we'll find out. And we're now going to think about what other ones we could have done. So I'll probably just start with the bullet points. So it starts us to compare the weekly distances of week 1, 10, and 16. So we can say both Plan A and Plan B start at week 1 with a 10 kilometer run. So that's the comparing for week 1. Week 10, they're the ones we've calculated here. We got 25.6 and we had 28 over here. During week 10, Plan A would mean Bob runs 28 kilometers, whereas Plan B would mean Bob runs 25.6 kilometers. This means Plan A this means under plan A, Bob would run 2.4 kilometers more than under plan B. So again, like my red stuff, I've got my 2 comments about plan A, plan B, and then I've got the comparative comment afterwards. No real need to do that over here. So week 16. So week 16 is interesting. That's the highest amount for both plans. So we've got 40 kilometers and we've got 47.8 kilometers. So that's pretty big, the highest amount for both plans. Week 16, so I'll probably start off with that. Week 16 represents the largest runs for both plans. Plan A, or under plan A, Bob would run 40 kilometers, and whereas he would run, forgive my bad typing, I've actually forgotten how much he ran into plan B, so that was a yellow one there, 47.8. He would run 47.8 kilometers. This means under plan B, so this means plan B would have a higher maximum daily run distance. So again, I've got my same thing. I've got my 2 comments. What are the 2 numbers? And I made my comparative statement. So 47.8 kilometers. I just want to note that's actually above the distance of a marathon. A marathon's 42 kilometers. So probably at this point here, I'm just going to disclaim this. So this is probably an issue with plan B. So the maximum distance of 47.8 kilograms under, I keep saying kilograms, but kilometers, under plan B might be an issue for Bob. And this is where your contextual understanding kicks in. A marathon is typically 42 kilometers. This means Bob has run 5.8 kilometers more than a marathon. This might mean Bob would overtrain under plan B. So for example, like if I was running a marathon, I wouldn't be doing more work than I need to, because running a marathon is physically exhausting and you just can't do that, I don't think. So I think that's an issue with plan B. Okay, so I think we've done that. Obviously, big issue there. The next one they asked us to talk about, scrolling up, was the total distance ran. So that conversation we had was all about the first bullet point. They've asked us about the total distance. So the total distance was the green ones we've highlighted in our Google Sheet. So let's have a look. So we've got not a big difference here. Under plan A, Bob would run a total of 476 kilometers in the 19-week training program, whereas he would run 482.8 kilograms, 1DP, under plan B. This means the total distance ran under plan B is that 6.8? Yep, 6.8 kilograms, or kilometers, not kilograms, more than plan A. So there's my same process. I've got my 2 numbers and I've made my comparative statement. I've got to forgive the typos, distance run. And then there's another one up there. What was that meant to be? This means they would, perfect, overtrain. That's probably a bit of a hyphen there. Okay, let's ignore that. So I've run through the 3 points. So it'll be interesting to talk about other stuff if you want to. But the last comment relates to the injury stuff that they had over here, the increasing over 3 kilometers. And this is where the excellence stuff comes into play. So let's change this to green, because that's what the excellent stuff was going to be. and we're going to talk about the differences. So just a reminder, the difference for plan A was always 2, so there's no risk of injury there. But we have these pink parts here that had a difference of greater than 3 for plan B issues. So under plan A, the difference between every week was 2 kilometers or less. Maybe I'll put that in brackets, or less when tapering. However, in plan B, the difference between weeks exceeded 3 kilometers. Oh, forgive that. I definitely need to plug that in. Exceeded 3 kilometers for weeks 12 to 16. This means plan B would cause or would pose an injury risk for Bob during weeks 12 to 16. I would suggest Bob reconsider plan B, or avoid using it whatsoever. Okay, and I'm just going to change my color back to blue because that was excellent stuff. If I had to recommend, even though I didn't ask it, I'll make a recommendation. If I had to recommend a plan for Bob, I would suggest plan A. This is because there are 2 issues with plan B. And then we'll state the 2 issues. Issue number 1 was overtraining. For example, even week 15 and week 16 would result in Bob running an amount greater than the 42 kilometer marathon. And then finally, the second one, the main one being weeks 12 to 16, would have a difference of larger than 3 kilometers, posing an injury risk to Bob. Okay, full stop. So just noting, so I'm 37 minutes in, and you'll probably have 90 minutes with this internal. So that means the remaining part of this time will be the excellent section, and that's where we'll start it off. And we'll scroll up to kind of see what happens. And then, so just to recap, regarding the merit criteria, the merit criteria was writing at least 2 comparative statements, which we've done here. And then it also involved making 2 comments specific to the context of the training program. So for example, these bottom 2 here would be examples of using your context, overtraining, and having a difference posing an injury risk. So just to clarify, it's 2 comments with numbers, and then 2 comments regarding that. And obviously, to justify your answer, they had to be supported by calculations, and that's what we did on the Google Sheet. Okay, so probably before we move on to the excellent stuff, I'll probably just copy and paste my Plan A summary and Plan B summary. Probably just a courtesy, make the marker's life a bit easier. So doing that, so let's do Plan A first. I'm using the snipping tool. Hopefully you've used it before. If you need help finding it or you want using it, just comment below and I'll comment with a description of how to find it. So there was the summary for Plan A, had all the key information highlighted, and I'm going to do the same for Plan B. There we go. So snipping tool, clicking new, and then I'm copying that over. Obviously, I can't see the formulas that have been used, but sharing that with your teacher during the marking process means if they've got any doubt, they can jump in and check what you did. Okay, so back to the green stuff. We had a bit of a segue there, but let's get into the excellence portion. So, new plan for Bob. So, both of the plans that we've created here, there are some issues with them. So let's bold that, and then let's go up to the excellence part and part 2 to see what it's actually asked us to do. So investigate when Bob would have an increase of getting injured. We've actually already done that, I just realized. And then suggest a new training plan that incorporates the following features. So the weekly running distance increases by 2 kilometers at the beginning of the training program. So less than 2 kilometers at the beginning. So that means we can't just add 2 every time. I think that's trying to get us to do a geometric one, I suspect. The maximum distance must be the same or more than part 1. So the maximum distance there was 40 kilometers. The weekly running distance does not increase by more than 3 kilometers from one week to another. And then the plan incorporates a similar tapering phase. So let's quickly jot those points down. So Bob needs a new plan that does not increase by more than 2 kilometers at first, does not exceed, we'll just call it has a 40 kilometer maximum, has a 40 kilogram maximum daily distance. What else did it need? I've actually forgotten already. It had a similar tapering phase. So that means that that maximum had to be in week 16 again. And the differences. No differences exceeding 3 kilometers. So this is going to be a bit different, but we could probably think maybe algebraically we could probably do this because we know that it's got to be 40 kilometers in week 16. So we could maybe go, if we think of their formula, so maybe we'll use a geometric sequence to be used. And the formula in terms of terms, so Tn, just remind us, is equal to A times R to the power of n minus 1. And we know that T16 should be equal to 40. Oh, forgive me, 40. That's because we know in week 16, we've decided it's going to have a distance of 40 kilometers. So we know that n is going to be equal to 16 because of week 16 in relation to that. And we knew that a was equal to 10. So the only thing is, that means we don't really know the ratio, question mark, question mark, question mark, but we can actually go ahead and solve that by substituting these all in and maybe using an algebra solver to get us there. So we know that T16 will be equal to A, so that's going to be 10, times the ratio, which is our unknown, to the power of 16 minus 1. And T16, remember, is 40, so we can get rid of that. And we can actually use a bit of algebra to find this. So if you're wondering what algebra tool I use, if you just open up a new tab and just Google search algebra solving, there'll be heaps of different algebra solving tools come up. But just a reminder, the first ones are always these sponsored ones, so they're the people who pay to get into it. But this Maths Papa is normally the best one, so I always use that one there. So it's just thinking, and what happens here is you enter the equation, you hit calculate, and you get your answer. So I'm going to go Control C, I'm going to paste it in. You can see the formatting's a bit weird because this isn't a power, so I'm actually going to have to change that. I'll just do 15 because that's what 16 minus 1 was, so let's get rid of that. So that resembles what I'm trying to do, and I'm going to click calculate, and you can see I've now got my answer. You could have solved it algebraically if you wanted to. So R is equal to 1.09 6825. So what this means is that's 9% of that 9, so it's about 9.685 or 825%. So this means the common ratio would be 9.6825%. So pretty precise, but better to be accurate in this case. So now once we've got the common ratio, let's have a try and create a new Google Sheet to see how it works. The main issue is I'm not sure if the difference is going to be less than 3 every time, so I'm going to have to check it out, maybe make some differences or make some changes below. So let's copy the week number stuff first. So let's get that there, Control V, and then let's get the plan stuff here. There you go. So there's my template for plan 3. We'll call it version 1 in case we need to do other stuff, but there you go. Plan 3 sum. We've got the differences. And then I'll just make this blue one. Let's make that go away. There we go. So we know the first week was 10. And we know the second week will be 10 times the common ratio that we had. And that was this 1.09 stuff. 1.096825. So that's what I would have run in week 1. And this is good. Don't forget, the first one has to be less than 2 kilometers, which this one definitely is. Let's drag this down until week 16. And 40 kilometers, slightly off due to rounding, but slightly above is all good. So we're now going to do the tapering. So that's going to be equal to that number times 0.8. And then that number times 0.6. And then that number times 0.5. So perfect. We're now going to do the differences. Week 1, there'll be no difference, and that will be week 2 minus week 1. So that means the first week I ran 0.96825, which is perfect. That was kilometers. I'm going to drag that down. And just what I feared, I've got a couple weeks that are over 3, and that's obviously not ideal for me, unfortunately. So that means I'm going to have to come up with another plan. So I'm going to copy this one in and explain what's wrong with it. Let's quickly do the sum part. So that will be that one. Don't forget the sum will be the total from the week before plus the new amount. There we go. So problem, definitely problem because of those 3 ones. So let's use the snipping tool. So I want to talk about what I've got there, and I want to highlight that that's an issue, and then I need to come up with another plan, unfortunately. Below is a Google Sheet representing this plan. Control V. However, there is an issue with it. Under week 15 and week 16, the difference would exceed 3 kilometers, which would result in an injury risk for Bob. So I need to modify this plan. So not very good at all. So let's scroll down. Let's try to think of a new idea. So I guess the main issue is it has to increase by more than 3 to get to this goal of 40, because it's got to go from 10 to 40. So that's problematic. So perhaps because he can already run 10 kilometers a week before this. So maybe we can start at a little higher amount. Maybe if we start him at 12 for the first one, and then gradually build him up to 40, maybe that then means these differences down here are less than 3. So given Bob can run 10 kilometers prior to the training program starting, perhaps, or let's do this better, perhaps Bob can start with a 12 kilometer run instead of 10 kilometers. this would mean, or this would result a different common ratio, which we would also need to use algebra to solve. So because the A value is different, the R value we calculated here is also going to be different. So let's copy and paste this stuff here, because that's going to be similar, but the numbers are going to change, unfortunately. So T is still equal to 16. So T16 is still equal to 40 because the maximum daily distance number is still 40. N is still equal to 16 because that 16-week threshold hasn't changed. A, we're thinking of maybe getting Bob to start that at 12 kilometers instead. And R, completely unknown. So let's see if this works out well. It might not work out well for us. We might have to come up with another idea, but let's give it a go. So TN, we know that's going to be 40. A was 12 now, and N there is 16. And I know we had some issues copying and pasting before because of that brackets, but we know the bracket's going to simplify to 15. So let's copy this into my algebra solver. I had that, left that open, Control V, got a little symbol there. So power of 15, there we go, and let's solve it. So there's our new ratio. So very slightly different, about 1% less, but that's what we wanted because we did want the increases to be slightly less to make sure that 3 kilometer one doesn't kind of cause any issues for us. There we go. So this means, so let's go ahead above and copy this sentence. So this means the common ratio would be, let's just change that. So it would actually be 8 point, get rid of this, 3574%. Okay, so let's put this in a Google Sheet and hopefully we get a better answer. So I'm going to copy and paste all of this because it's actually going to be pretty similar, except one part's going to change. So it's all kind of been coded and programmed properly. So this first one here, I'm changing from the 96 number that we had before. So we're going to go 1.0.574. So you see how that's changed things, and I'm just going to drag this down because it'll change all of these here as well. The tapered ones down the bottom are all going to be a little bit different. Oh, actually, I just realized I didn't change the first one to 12, right? So that changes to 12. And then the percentages will change, and you can see we're roughly at 40 kilometers. That's just rounding that's caused a problem. So we're not too stressed about it. And let's get the tapering. So it's going to be that number times 0.8 equals that number times 0.6 equals that number times 0.5. So annoyingly, so we fixed part of the issue, but we've still got one that's ever so slightly above 3 kilometers, and that's an injury risk. So we're going to have to make another change, but I've got an idea to help us with the last part. So hopefully it's going to work. So below is a schedule or revised schedule for Bob based on an initial run of 12 kilometers and a common ratio of 8.3574%. And we do need to comment on that pink again. So again, we have an issue during week 16. The difference is 3.085 kilometers, which exceeds the safe 3 kilometer injury threshold. This means we are going to need to make some minor changes. Okay, so when we are nearly there, we do need a third go at it, unfortunately. So let's copy this. I'm actually pretty happy with what I've done. I've only got some very minor tweaks in mind. So the first one I want to do is, you can see this week here is really, really close to 37 kilometers, but not quite. And I'm pretty sure that number will match up with the difference that we see there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to manually change this to 37. And you can see that's above, even though it's gone up, it's still below 3. And then I'm going to change this one here to 40. So I'm going to manually change that. And you can see that's bang on 3, but that's not more than 3. So I really like that. So what I've done is I've manually said what we're doing here. Those ones there. So my geometric sequence will hold true for week 1 to week 14. And then in week 15, he's going to run 37. And that was roughly what we had before. Week 16, he's going to run bang on 40. Again, roughly what we had before. And then that tapering kicks in as well. So for me, that's my final plan. So let's get this copied. And I'll paste it in. So my final plan for Bob would be continuing with an initial run of 12 kilometers and a common ratio of, oh geez, that the number's going to be annoying, of 8.3574%. However, I would alter the run for week, or the run distance actually, distance for week 15 and 16. I would suggest Bob runs, oh sorry, maybe that's a different way. So if Bob runs 37 kilometers in week 15 and 40 kilometers in week 16, this would ensure he runs 40 kilometers exactly, and this would reduce the week 16 difference to exactly 3 kilometers. As a result, all of the criteria would be fulfilled. A summary of the proposed plan for Bob is below. And there we go. So that would be the plan. So he would have a geometric sequence from week 1 to 14. He would do 37 and 15, 40 and 16, and then he would have his tapering process. So let's just summarize that. So for week 1 to 15, 14 I think it was, week 1 to 14, Bob's plan would follow a geometric sequence where A equals 12, R equals 1.087 or 35. See it there. For week 14, Bob would run 37 kilometers. For week 16, Bob would run 40 kilometers. And then finally for weeks 17 to 19, Bob would follow the tapering plan. I've spelled tapering wrong, but there we go. So I think that wraps up. So let's quickly just double check that we did everything for that excellence part. Quite a long one at the end. So the running distance was less than 2 kilometers per week at the beginning, tick. The maximum distance was the same or more than plan 1, perfect. We got 40 kilometers exactly. The distance does not increase by more than 3, tick. We got that. We got exactly 3. And the plan incorporates a tapering phase. Yes, so we got them all. So the last plan that we summarized, that would be a-okay, and that would get our excellence criteria. So quite a long video, but thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you got through it. If you have any questions about Google Sheets or what I chatted about, don't hesitate in commenting, and I'll reply, particularly over the next week. I'll probably apply pretty quick while people are doing this internal. So thanks so much for watching. Now good luck for your internal.